Hello and welcome to my channel. This channel is all about reading audiobooks from Erin Hunter, or similar books. The book I'll be reading today is called Alpha's Tale, and it is a super edition within the series Survivors, written by Erin Hunter. Chapter 3. The snows melted from the pine branches and from the ground beneath the pack's paws, thawing into a warm and fertile long light. Months when their bellies were full, their coats were sleek, and new pups rolled and squealed in the green grass. Then the trees turned red and gold, and once more the ground froze underpaw, and the snows came again, smothering the landscape in white. But the pack was strong, and the wolves endured the cold well. The only weakest of the wolves died that ice wind, and Dog was one of the strongest. By the time Longlight warmed the land once more, bringing greenness and wildflowers, and the migrating herds, he was a fully grown, powerful wolf. By Red Leaf, he was the leader of his own hunting team. The stone striped his fur with warm gold as he prowled through the undergrowth, scenting for the mule deer he knew had passed this way. He flicked his ears to scatter the flies that danced around his head, but it was impossible to discourage them. Ignoring their insistent, high-pitched whining, he focused all his senses on his prey and on his team. Off to his left, Noble stalked through the scrub. She'd played with his mother wolf as a pup, and she had plenty of experience and skill. Several wolf strides from his right flank were Daring and Brave, spread out as he'd instructed. Brave was young, but she was keen. Daring was, well, she was as she'd always been, but at least she was a reliable hunter. Dog paused on the edge of the forest clearing. The buck's head was up, sniffing the wind, but it was blowing towards the wolves. It had a group of 4 or 5 does, as well as some calves that must have been born in an earlier season. The filtered sun burnished their sleek coats with orange. Any one of them would make a fine catch. There are 4 of us, thought Dog with a surge of hunting thrill. How many can we take? He flicked an ear toward Noble and glanced at the buck. Turning to Daring and Brave, he indicated the does. Noble gave him a brief nod, but Daring whispered something to Brave, and the dog's brow furrowed. Dog lowered his forequarters and slunk closer. Their positions were perfect. There was a crashing of undergrowth to his right as Daring and Brave charged across him toward the buck. It spun an alarm, and the does and calves bolted for the deeper forest, tails flashing white. The buck was trying to flee too, but Daring's claws were already raking its red haunches. With a bellow, it turned, lashing its ankle at the 2 wolves. The dogs dashed to help them, even as fury burned in his gut. I'm the leader of this team. What do those 2 think they were doing? He'd beaten them both, and soundly, to rise above them in the pack hierarchy, just as he'd challenged and thrashed so many other wolves. He'd left that scar on Daring's shoulder himself. Get after those does, he barked at Noble. You might still get a calf. She gave a quick nod and tore into the woods after the deer, but Dog held out little hope. The prey had too much of a head start. Daring and Brave were lunging at the buck's flanks, and Brave even snapped at its head. But that was a bad move. The buck swung down its antlers, nearly goring his belly. Daring slashed her claws down its shoulder, and Dog leaped to rake its haunches. The creature was still kicking and struggling as Dog grabbed the soft underside of its neck in his jaws. By the time Noble returned, preyless, the stag was on its knees. Exhausted from blood loss, all she had to do was finish him off. As soon as the light died in the buck's eyes and its head flopped to the earth, Dog sprang back, barking furiously at Daring and Brave. How dare you ignore my orders? Daring hunched her shoulders, giving him a sly look. You told us to attack the buck, didn't you? I told you to go for the does, and you know it, he snarled. We could have had 2 of these deer. We only got this one, she growled, thanks to me and Brave. Really? He was breathing heavily and fought to control his temper. Since it's your kill, then, you can drag it back to camp, both of you. Oh, I don't think so. Daring sat back on her haunches and scratched her ears. Longpaws used Dog for fetching and carrying, so that's your job. Go on, fetch. The insolence almost knocked the breath from Dog's lungs. He drew himself up, his long legs stiff, his eyes blazing. I challenge you. The wolves faced each other for a long silent moment. Daring got to a pause, but Noble took a sidelong step between them. Dog, she said gently, you're already Daring's superior. You've nothing to gain and everything to lose. This isn't about gaining or losing, snarled Dog. This is about honour. She's not going to get away with that talk. She'll accept my challenge, or I'll make sure she's branded a coward. He glared into Daring's eyes, glad to see that she blinked first. Of course Daring knew that she'd lose to Dog in any fair fight. He'd proved that before, and with ease. Her ears betrayed her with a nervous twitch. Brave's voice cut into the tension between them. What challenge? I didn't hear any challenge. Dog turned to him, his lip curling. What? No wolf's issued a challenge. Brave tilted his head, his jaw twisted in a smirk. That's right. Daring, her composure back, gave a yelp of amusement. No challenge here. It's our word against yours, sniped Brave. And who's going to take Dog's word over a wolf's? Daring growled. Let's ask the pack when we get back, shall we? Dog's hackles sprang erect as he stared at them both in disbelief. Swinging his head, he looked at Noble. She was staring at the ground, apparently fascinated by the carpet of pine needles. With a bark of laughter, Daring turned and stalked away, Brave at his heels. Don't forget the buck, she called back, her voice brimming with insolence, and then the two young wolves were gone. Dog shivered with rage beneath his fur. His blood ran hot, and his bones trembled, but there was nothing he could do. He turned to the corpse of the buck and snapped his teeth into its throat. I'll help. Noble's full voice was at his ear, and her teeth gripped the buck's shoulder. Dog released his grip. Leave it, he snarled, twisting to glare at her. I'm the dog. I'll carry the prey. You know that isn't Noble? They called you Noble? That's the joke, he growled. You heard what I said, and what they said, and you kept your jaws shut. Noble. Ha. The older wolf took a pace back, lowering her head. Then she lifted it and looked sorrowfully into his angry eyes. A name isn't everything, Dog, she said softly. You of all wolves should know that. She turned and padded slowly back toward the camp. The anger wouldn't shift from his belly. The dog lay in his den, tearing with his fangs at a stout branch pinned beneath his jaws. It splintered, spiking into his gums, but he ripped again, furiously, shredding it. The pain was nothing to his churning fury. He had dragged the buck all the way back to camp by himself. Beta had been disappointed in them for only catching one deer, and Dog knew Beta was right. Dog? A soft voice behind him. He glanced sideways, but sank his teeth into the wood again, wrenching it to splinters. This should be Daring's guts. Mother Wolf, he growled. Noble spoke to me. She told me what happened. And, he spat shreds of branch, you have to tell Alpha. You must. Alpha would want to know about this kind of insubordination. A pack can't afford to let wolves behave like that. Alpha knows it. She'll take your side, and she'll... That's enough. Dog sprang to his paws, slamming one of them onto what was left of the wood. Alpha will hear nothing of this. Do you hear me? But Dog, I was a senior hunter. Dog shoved his muzzle against Graceful's and spoke through his clenched fangs. They were my team, under my command. If Daring thinks she can speak to me that way, it is my fault. It was not your fault. Graceful took a pace back, her gentle eyes wide. I could explain to Alpha. I could tell her what happened. Dog, this is important? To let every wolf in the pack know what a pathetic leader I am? He gave a vicious snarl. I don't need my mother wolf running to Alpha to tell her all the other wolves are being mean to me. Graceful's forequarters sagged. I only want to help. Help? He growled. You've done enough. Graceful caught her breath, and her brow furrowed with confusion. What do you mean? What went through your head? Go on, tell me. Dog raked his claws furiously through the soft floor of the cave, drawing score like a wound. Didn't you even think twice before you inflicted this on your own pup? What kind of madness got into your brain? You're a wolf, and you mated with a filthy dog. Graceful stared at him, shaking her head as she backed away, and Pain nodded his belly at the expression on her face. For an instant, the anger inside him died, like a forest fire swamped by rain. She set her jaw high as dark with hurt. Dog, don't. Don't talk about your sire that way. Dog gathered his anger. You're the one who made him my sire, not me. Fury lit her eyes, and they flashed gold in the dimness. Don't you dare. Your sire was a fine dog, a strong and wise dog. Yes, he was a dog, and he was better than 100 wolves I've known. You should be proud to wear that name, yet all you can do is listen to vicious fools like Daring. Well, I don't have to, and I don't have to listen to you insult your sire. Turning on her haunches, she bounded from the den. Dog stared after her, his insides twisting and tightening with conflicted fury. How could I? Grace was right. But I'm right too. I can't live like this. She should never have made me. With a howl of intolerable fury, he tore the remains of the branch to shreds.